My name's Deanne Erdman. I'm with Baylor College of Medicine. Infectious disease case study is the 10th activity in a unit called the Science of Microbes. And of course, this activity is aligned with the national standards. In this activity, students are going to use evidence to determine whether a patient has a cold, the flu, or some other type of infection. So this is a little bit of a mystery for them to be able to get into and decide what our fictitious patient named Allison might actually have, or what might be wrong with her. Materials for this activity are pretty simple. You have 2 student sheets to prepare. What is wrong with Allison? Diseases and symptoms, disorders and symptoms. Then you have you've got a master that has a number of different clues and questions. And we found it best to run those off on mailing labels, and then you can easily just stick them on an envelope. So, for example, this envelope has the question, does Allison have a headache? And to find out if she does, to open it, we just put the mailing label on the inside flap, and it says, yes, she has a headache. So these are the clues and symptoms envelopes, and then once they're prepared, they're easy to use as a class set. And running them off on mailing labels works quite well. Safety for this particular activity, nothing special to consider, but once again, you always want students to at least think about that. Now, to start out with, what's a good focus? Well, everybody, and probably more than you want to hear, has experience with being sick. And they all have stories. They all have various symptoms that they want to ask about and try to determine, what somebody has. So the thing that you want to do is get students to start thinking about, how do you know you're sick? What is it that gives you that clue? What are some of the common symptoms? And what are some common diseases that immediately are your suspects? Are all diseases alike? Are there some diseases that have similar symptoms? Are there diseases that have very, very different kinds of symptoms? So once you've got them thinking along this line, you're going to have them read and discuss what is wrong with Allison. So Allison is our poor case here, and it talks about that Allison is an active, healthy girl, and it gives you a few things to consider. Okay, she likes to play outside with her dog. She's missed only one day of school, so she's not a habitual school skipper and a hypochondriac. She woke up in the morning. She had a headache. She had a sore throat. Wasn't hungry. And her mom felt her forehead. She felt a little warm. She took her to the doctor because Allison's cousin had strep throat. So that sort of sets the scene. So you want to get the students to then read the questions and see what they think could be causing Allison's symptoms. Then the next thing, acting as the doctor, just come up with 4 questions that they want to target Allison with. And then each group should decide on 3 possible diseases that they think that Allison might have. So they've done quite a bit of thinking before they get to the activity. All right. Next, you want them you want to give them this disorders and symptoms sheet and have them study. And they're looking at the diseases common cold, the flu, strep throat, and nasal allergies. So we're going to look at the symptoms, we're going to look at the causes, look at the treatments, and look at their questions that they previously thought about, and now have them look at the envelopes. Now caution them to not look inside the envelope, because the object of this activity is to see which group can open the fewest envelope, get an answer to the fewest questions, and target or nail down what is possibly wrong with Allison. So you want to tell them that they want to sort through each of the envelopes and see, well, this one says, what is Allison's body temperature? We could find that out. What's her weight? What's her height? What's her blood pressure? What's the condition of her nose? What's the appearance of her throat? And so forth and so on. So they'll read through all of their questions and decide what order they want to open these envelopes that they think will give them the answers to let them narrow down to whether she has one of these 4 disorders or diseases. So, and it's obviously students, you want to emphasize to students that in real life, you really want the doctor asking as many questions as possible, and you don't want them to say, okay, I can name that disease with 3 questions. But in this particular activity, we're just wanting them to hone their thinking a little bit more, and so that's why we're making it sort of a contest to see who can figure it out with the fewest questions, and that's by asking the best questions. All right, so then they're going to, after they've done that, they're going to answer the questions on the worksheet, and when they're all done, you're going to come back as a class and say, okay, what do you think was wrong with Allison? And of course, in this particular case, it turns out to be a cold, and you can see which groups came up with that and which groups didn't. And then have a discussion of what were the critical symptoms. Was it important for you to know their body weight or height? Well, in the big scheme of being in the doctor's office, those are always important things for doctors to kind of get a clue about. And especially if it's your regular doctor, they can see if your weight, you've got sudden weight loss or sudden weight gain. Those can also be good indicators. But what were the key questions that really were the most critical here? And the type of cough, the condition of the nose, the temperature. Was it important to know if Allison had taken any medications? Well, of course. If she had taken some sort of a painkiller that helps diminish headaches or helps diminish fever, then that might be masking a symptom that Allison really has. So it's important to know, did you take some Tylenol before you went to the doctor, and that's going to, and even though you don't have a fever, maybe you did have a fever prior to taking that. And you also want to have a nice discussion of what about antibiotics. Okay, so Allison has a cold, and then they need to discuss, well, what microbe causes colds? That's viruses. And do antibiotics work against viruses? Well, the answer is no. No, they don't. So the overprescription of antibiotics could easily be something that's more harmful to Allison than helpful, because that's part of what helps create antibiotic resistance. On the other hand, you always have problems with secondary infections. And what does that mean? Well, anytime your body is under attack, your immune system is compromised. It's waging war against this one particular kind of microbe, and that's an opportunity, an inroad, sometimes for another microbe waiting in the background that your body normally keeps at bay. So sometimes when you do get a virus, you do get a secondary bacterial infection that does require antibiotics, and that's one of the reasons why if you're not seeing quick resolution to some of these diseases, you want to go back to your doctor and see just what's going on. A great extension to this activity is the discussion of antibiotic resistance and the development of that in our society today, and the problem that creates for everybody. And what students need to understand is that, let's say that I don't use my antibiotics properly, I don't take the full prescription when I have something that requires that, or I overuse antibiotics or antibacterial kinds of products, and I get some bacteria that are growing in and around my home or my body that are resistant to some of the best antibiotics. Is that just my problem? Well, no, it's not, because now those bacteria are available and loose in the environment, and then it can affect other people as well. So it is very worthy of discussion, because we do have we are starting to see more and more microbes that are becoming resistant to antibiotics. The Staphylococcus aureus is one example, the MRSA bacteria, and also one of the strains of tuberculosis. So those are important discussions, and I think a great extension to this activity. I know your students will have fun with this. There's a PDF that you can download with this activity. that occurs along with this presentation, and I thank you.